I'm Bass. Before we dive into everything, getting you ready for the Pistons as the NBA season gets underway next week, as well as getting you ready for Michigan football and Michigan State football. Got to remind you guys to like and subscribe everywhere you can find us. That'd be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And we got full episodes on YouTube as well as DetroitSportsNation.com. And I want to welcome you guys to another edition of Small Business Friday. Today's spotlight, Bouncing Around the Motor City. The team at Bouncing Around the Motor City takes pride in providing outstanding customer service to ensure that your experience with renting party and special event equipment is stress-free and super simple. Their associates are fully trained in installing and properly operating all of their party rental equipment because your safety, and that of your guests, means the world to them. Bouncing Around the Motor City provides a variety of event rental inventory to accommodate all types of occasions, from inflatable bounce houses, stuffed balloons, tables, chairs, throne chairs. That's right, you can get a throne for your party, which is sweet. I might not even throw a party, I'll just order a throne. Even food like cotton candy makers, hot dog makers, popcorn makers, they got you covered for birthdays, weddings, baby showers, you name it. Visit BouncingAroundTheMotorCity.com. Ryan, we got to get one of these, man. We're just going to throw a big old DSM party, get a big old bouncy castle to jump in, and get a couple thrones to chill on, and some cotton candy.
Yeah, get in touch with Dylan Bear at the Fantasy Factory. Throw a big fantasy football party, and whoever wins gets to sit on this, I don't know if it's inflatable, but gets to sit on this throne.
No, so I went and took a look at the site. The thrones are like thrones, man. Like some big old 1845s chair, and just chill there. We get a crown and just kick it. All right. So we got football. We'll get to football. NBA season right around the corner, tipping off this upcoming Tuesday. Our Detroit Pistons, all sorts of hype with a young team coming in. And just like with the Detroit Lions and the Detroit Red Wings and the Detroit Tigers, we have to emphasize the word patience to our Detroit fans. Because I don't know what you're thinking. Me personally, I know we coming off not a great year, 23-59. They were 28th in offense. They were 24th in defense. I'm expecting better than that, but I don't think we a play-in team just yet, Ryan.
No, I mean, the Pistons should be pretty bad. They were a bad team last year, and they added some pieces, but it's still a young team. And you just look at the rest of the teams in the East. This is like the best that the Eastern Conference has ever been that I can recall. Well, they're obviously not going to be better than the Bucks or the Nets or the Heat, the Sixers, the Raptors, the Celtics. Like, name it, right? Probably not better than the Cavaliers either. Might not even be better than the New York Knicks with who they brought in. So you start to even just look at in the NBA who you know that they're better than, and there's really not that many teams. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Pistons ended up with a bottom six record in the NBA and had one of the best six lottery odds to go and draft Wembanyama. But I think it's just I don't think it's a really bad team, but it's a team that still has a long way to go before we're talking about the play-in. And the play-in is still the top 10 teams in the conference, and I don't think the Pistons are close to that, and there's only 15 teams in each conference. So you start to talk about them, and when you start to frame it like that, you can, I don't know, like it puts it into reality for me. So I don't expect the season to be great from a win-loss perspective. I think they'll be in a lot of games. I think we're going to get some strides, and certainly going to be fun to watch the guys grow, whether it's Cade Cunningham taking another step, Saddiq Bey, seeing if he can take that next step, Killian Hayes, can he continue a little bit what he's been doing in the preseason. I went to the last preseason game, not the one that happened yesterday, but the one that was played on Tuesday. And Killian looked really good. The Pistons lost by 20, but Killian had 4 threes. I think he had 6 assists. And so it's just going to be fun to see these different young players grow. Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, who might get a lot of run at the beginning of the season because Marvin Bagley's hurt. And we'll see. But I don't expect the Pistons to be very competitive for the playoffs.
Yeah, Bagley going down certainly hurts. We talked about this last year. We talked about it on Throwing Stones. I was stoked that they made that move to bring Bagley in. I never thought he really got a real chance in Sacramento, and I was hoping we can be where his career really takes off, and it still can be. Obviously, it's an MCL sprain, nothing really torn. Hopefully, after that 3 or 4 weeks, he comes back and can really show what he can be in the NBA. I mean, we're talking about a former number 2 pick, right? The number 2 pick for Sacramento? I'm almost positive.
Bagley? Yeah. He picked ahead of Luka.
Yeah. You just got to throw that out there, huh? But aside from that, just taking a look at the guys, that a lot of them you had just talked about. We're talking about Cade Cunningham. He's in his second year. And Jaden Ivey in his first year. Jalen Duren in his first year. Killian Hayes in his third year. Sadiq Bey in his third year. Beef Stew in his third year. Livers in his second year. That's 7 players that can really be a great core of a team going forward. But they're in their third year or less. They are still growing into this league, into this game. And so that's why I want to temper expectations with fans out there, because fans are crazy, man. You have no idea what these fans are thinking. But there is something happening here in Detroit with this team. It's not going to happen this year. Next year, I'm hoping that we are fighting for a play-in position. This year, I'm expecting us to be a little bit better than we were last year, but I want to see growth. I want to see growth from Cunningham. I mean, geez, talk about the way that Dwayne Casey is talking about him and putting on 20 pounds of muscle and looking unrecognizable. This is a guy who, for the second half of the season after the All-Star break, over 20 points, over 6 assists a game, was used way too much for a rookie. That's how bad the Pistons were. They needed something out of it. And we are also a team who got rid of our leading scorer in Jeremy Grant. It was essentially a trade to get Duren, which is not a bad move, obviously, because Grant was the odd man out. For as good as he wasn't going to be part of the future build for the Pistons, so it made sense. But that's why I'm saying you got to temper expectations. I don't even know what people's expectations are, but seeing what we've seen for Lions expectations, that's why I'm getting out in front of this ahead of time to say, don't be expecting this team to be fighting for a playoff position yet. We're not there. But those 7 guys I just named are a beautiful core to have for the future. And in 3 years from now, we should be talking about one of the better teams in basketball if we're keeping all these guys together and they pan out the way that we hope they do.
Yeah, Cade's amazing. Cade's great. And I think even if Cade plays at a borderline all-star level this year, the Pistons could still be looking at one of those bottom 6 records in the NBA. Now, yet next year is the year, depending on even whatever happens in the draft, whether you get Wembanyama or not. Just getting somebody else and getting all these guys an extra year of experience, there'd be really no excuse for the Pistons not to at least be in the play-in tournament next year. But this year, it's all about growth. It's all about getting the young guys ready. And the Pistons, to their credit, it's not a team that is openly tanking. The Spurs are, like the Pacers, the Jazz, or a team like that. They're a team who went out and they did try to make the roster better. They went out, they got shooters, they got Alex Burke, they got Bojan Bogdanovic, 2 guys who were better shooters than really anybody that the Pistons had last year. And you pair that with, you think we're going to get a bigger role from Isaiah Livers. I'm sure we are. And it's just surrounding Cade with more shooters, surrounding Jaden Ivey with more shooters. But that's where, again, I would try to temper the expectations of the fan base. Jaden Ivey, he certainly could win Rookie of the Year, but more likely than not, he's going to come in the NBA and he's going to struggle to find his footing for the first probably half of the season, right? These guys just don't come in and make immediate impacts, usually, especially not drafted at number 5 where Jaden Ivey was drafted. And that doesn't mean he sucks. It doesn't mean he's a bust or a bum or anything like that. It just takes a while to adjust to the NBA game. I don't understand, and Ivey's probably not even going to be starting to start the year. He might be now, but he wasn't going to be, right? The starting lineup would have been Cade, Bojan, Sadiq, Marvin Bagley, and then Isaiah Stewart. But now that Marvin Bagley's hurt, it's probably going to be the starting lineup that we saw the Pistons do last night in the preseason game, which is Cade, Ivey, Sadiq, Bojan, and Isaiah Stewart. So Jaden Ivey might start the year, but it certainly wasn't the plan. And not even trying to say that they were trying to bring him along slowly, but they were just trying to bring him along like you would a normal rookie, because you don't want to just throw him in there and then have him be like hot garbage or something. And not that you would expect him to be. He's probably going to be your worst starter just because he's a rookie. These other guys have been in the NBA, not for very long, mind you, but they've been in the NBA and they've already gone through at least a full season with Cade, a couple seasons with obviously the other guys, Stewart and Bay. But it's a super young team, and traditionally super young teams don't win in the NBA unless you have Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and James Harden and Serge Ibaka, which the Pistons don't have. They got some good players, but usually if you're that young, it just doesn't come that quickly for you. Yeah. But I think most Pistons fans should know that. There's going to be some excitement to start the year. They're playing Orlando game 1 of the season, and Orlando is in a pretty similar spot with the Pistons as far as what the rebuild looks like. And there's a lot of people who think Orlando could be pretty good too. They might be bottom 6. They have, you're looking at betting odds. I think they have one of the lowest over-under win totals. I mean, the Pistons, of course, but that's just another young team to match up against at the start of the season. And you're going to see there might be some overreaction from that game. Oh my God, how could we lose to the Magic? Or, oh, look at us 1-0. We're God's gift to basketball. So it's really just about keeping those expectations set, because injuries are going to happen, right? It's basketball. You can't predict injuries. Something's going to happen at some point of the season because it's what happens every year. You can't say, oh, this person's going to get injured in this game. But you know that you're going to get injured, and the Pistons still aren't a team that has a lot of depth. With Bagley out, Duran's probably going to have to play more than the Pistons want him to. And he looks like the greatest athlete of all time. Like, I saw him at the preseason game the other night, and the tickets were free. The Pistons were obviously trying to sell out LCA, so they were pretty good seats that they gave us. And he just looks massive. He looks like, if you looked at him, it's the best athlete ever. He should win every Olympic event that there is. But he's still 18, 19 years old. Like, he's not going to come in right away. Same thing with Jaden Ivey. He's not going to come in right away and be this all-star center. And he's probably going to make a lot of rookie mistakes. He's going to have a lot of a big learning curve. So, you're going to rely on him again, even the other young guys that you're relying on, Isaiah Livers, and really just anybody that is coming off the bench. Jaden Ivey. These aren't guys who are going to have small roles, but on a good team, they probably do have smaller roles than what they have on the Pistons.
Yeah, and what I'm looking forward to seeing is the dynamic between Cade and Ivey, because you're talking about two drastically different players. Cade is methodical. He's a little bit slower with his movement. He's not going to blow by you with a burst of speed. Ivey's got a first step you can't teach. And so blowing by is not going to be his problem. His problem is going to be keeping it under control and not being too erratic. He's got that. He's been compared to Westbrook. He's being compared to Morant as far as his vert is concerned. He's got all of this raw athleticism that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And it produced pretty well at Purdue, where he averaged over 17 points per game. He's going to be going up against bigger and stronger bodies that he's going to be running into, and he's got to learn to control what he can and get to the rim when he can. His shot has not been great so far in his college career. I wouldn't expect it to be great, obviously, as a rookie either, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see what he brings to the table working along with Cade, because they really do work at different speeds, but I think it could be a lot of fun to see. Duran's going to be, it looks like, thrust into a role that I don't think he's quite ready for. It's exciting to see, but I thought Nerlens Noel was going to be the guy anchoring the defense as far as the center position is concerned. Obviously, in Bagley, with Bagley going down, Noel hasn't been available either, it seems, for the most part, since coming to the Pistons. And then you talk about what Beef Stew's been working on as being not so much a center, but one of those stretch fours. He's working on a three-point shot, and it looks like it's been better throughout the offseason. And then you look at a guy like Isaiah Livers, who's that 3-and-D just prototype build that he's shown flashes of, and we need to see more of, obviously, this year. And that's one of the big things. We've talked about it for years. It's one of the big problems the Pistons have had for a long time, which is just shooting in general, but especially outside shooting. When Cade is one of your guys shooting the most threes, and he's at 31%. Saddiq Bey was the team leader in three-point attempts last season, and he was shooting under 35%. And not only that, but he was shooting most of his shots from where he's not as good at shooting the three. Apparently, he's much better shooting in the corner. Most people are. It's a shorter three, but he wasn't getting those opportunities. So I'm hoping that we're going to see more opportunities for the shooters to knock down threes. Obviously bringing in a guy like Bogdanovic, obviously bringing in a guy like Burks. These are two guys that have been shown for a long time now to be able to hit the outside shot. And so we should be able to take advantage of that more as long as the offense is flowing more. You're diving inside, kicking out, all of that stuff. Cade obviously has great court vision, and he'll be able to find you. But we need that. This is the growth we want to see. We want to see these guys take that next step offensively, where shots are being knocked down from deep, from inside the paint as well, obviously, or inside the arc, so that we're seeing more shooting ability from a Pistons offense, again, that was ranked 28th last season, 29th in three-point percentage. So they really can't go down, not much anyway. So you would think they can go up, and with the talent that's been added, you would think that it's going to go up a little bit easier. I'm curious to see what happens with Bogdanovic. Are we keeping him the whole season? Is this a guy we're going to see traded at the deadline for draft capital, as we are still building a team and he's a little bit older? But I'm excited for him to be on the Pistons, at least for the first half of the NBA season, to see what he brings to the table and helps spread the offense with the shooting ability of the Pistons that has been lacking for so many years. Seeing it be better this year, I am expecting that.
I'm expecting it too, as my house phone rings that nobody's had since 19.
It's your office phone. It's your office phone. You're working in an office. Look behind you.
That's right. I got my.
There's your coworker.
My coworker.
CEO.
For real. It's who runs things over here.
Oh, we know.
Hey, it's who runs the lights. It's the whole lighting department.
Cuts the power on you in mid-show.
Yeah, that's what runs do. Yeah, man, with Bagley, with even Boyan, it's interesting because Duren was a guy who, at least as of like yesterday, was leading the preseason in rebounds. And again, I still don't think he's ready for a big-time role. But with Bagley going down, you're right, they want to get Isaiah Stewart more work at the 4 position. So that really only leaves you with the 2 centers on your roster with Nerlens and Duren. And obviously, Stewart is going to rotate center now and probably run Sadiq or Boyan at the power forward and going with one of the 3 guard lineups that they could use when they have Cade, Killian, and Ivy in there, or even like they're doing now, right? Cade, Ivy, and Sadiq. Cade, Killian, and Sadiq. Like I'm sure we're going to see just a combination of those 3 guys pretty much all year. And then as far as Boyan goes, he's a guy who the Jazz wanted to get a first-round pick for, and if he comes to Detroit and he's hitting 42% of his threes and he's taking, 5 a game or something, yeah, it's a guy that teams are going to want. And I think the arms race is going to be a little bit different this year because I think teams are going to tank more than they ever have before for Wembanyama, and we're already seeing teams tank now, right? The Jazz, the Pacers, the Spurs, teams that we alluded to earlier. But when some of these teams are out of contention by the trade deadline, maybe that's when you see Portland have a fire sale. Not that you're going to trade Boyan to one of those teams, but what that's going to cause is now the Clippers are really loaded up at the deadline, even more so than they could before. So now the Warriors got to respond with something, and if they swing and miss on some big fish or whatever, just come grab Boyan from the Pistons, or the Bucks grab Boyan, or just whatever the case is that ends up happening. I think it's interesting. I certainly don't think this is going to be the roster that the Pistons have all season. Obviously, they're going to make trades. They brought in Kevin Knox, too, to see if they can reclaim something that he obviously was never able to show in New York. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't think we're seeing any of the core pieces move. Killian, maybe. But his stock's super low right now, so it wouldn't make sense to trade him anyway. He'd have to really show that he can be a facilitator on the team, whether in a backup or a starting role. And if he shows that, then you're not going to want to trade him. So I don't really see a scenario where the Pistons are giving up in Isaiah Stewart or a Killian Hayes or a Sadiq Bey or whatever. Certainly not Cade and Jaden Ivey. That seems like that's pretty much off the table. So I would look at some of the older vet guys, even like a Corey Joseph, but who the hell wants Corey Joseph? But Joseph, Bogdanovic, Noel, players like those that I could see the Pistons give up. And they still have Kemba Walker on their team for some weird reason, and he's not accepting the buyout the Pistons are giving him. So maybe there's some trade possibility there, even if they don't get a second-round pick for 3 years or something. I don't exactly know what's going to happen with that. But any of the trades the Pistons do make, I doubt it will be for some type of big fish, and I doubt you'll see any of the moves the Pistons make really shake up the core of what they're trying to build.
Yeah. While you fix your light situation, I'm going to switch it to the other side of the ball, which is the defense, which was the quote-unquote good side of the Pistons, and they were 24th in the NBA, so, I mean, not that good. And obviously losing a guy like Jeremy Grant and, replacing him with a guy like Bogdanovich, who's not known for his defense, doesn't help matters. One place I am looking for growth for is on the fouling, because, I mean, Cade, Beef Stew, Killian, Hamdou, Diallo, they all, I mean, foul way too much, and now we're adding a couple more rookies into the mix in Duren and Ivy. So they're going to be fouling as well. It's just because it's just a discipline thing for rookies coming into the NBA, that fouling is just something that's going to happen. But they were literally the worst in the NBA in opponent free throw rate. So everyone was getting fouled by the Pistons and shooting free throws. So I'm hoping that we're going to see a little bit more of that. Obviously, like we talked about, adding Duren and Noel, adding a little bit of rim protection there, adding some size, which will be nice to see to go along with Beef Stew. But defensively, it's going to be discipline more than anything else that we're going to have to see out of the Pistons to improve, especially on the side of the ball when it comes to fouling, because it's just so many young guys. It's just going to happen, and we just got to have to live with it for now. But I'm hoping to see some improvement in that discipline where we're not the worst in the NBA when it comes to opponent free throw shooting.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're probably just going to be a bad defense in general. We don't have a lot of good defenders, right? Cade's good, and Killian was good, but he's going to be on the bench now. And then you're looking at Isaiah Stewart, who's still not a great defender. He can protect the rim a little bit, but it's still not great. But Sadiq Bey is, not a good defender. Marvin Bagley isn't a good defender. Boyan, not a good defender. So for the Pistons, it's it's one step at a time, right? Like, they're not gonna. Rome wasn't built in a day, essentially, and I think there's some defensive potential, but even Jaden Ivey coming in, right? He's a rookie. He's not going to be, Herb Jones like was as a rookie. It's just not going to happen. He's going to have some plays like he had in the preseason game the other night, where he has, I think, 2 really good blocks, and then he had the steal, the Alvarado steal from behind. But most nights it's probably going to be a pretty rough go on the defensive end for Jaden Ivey, and you just kind of can't build a winning defense like that. And then as far as fouling, it's something that they do have to get under control. Maybe even just being a little bit older, the guys are going to get some better calls than they got before. At least I know on the other side of the ball in terms of drawing fouls, and I would expect that the logic goes the same way, right? Where they're going to allow Kawhi Leonard or Draymond to get away with more contact than they're going to allow, Jaden Ivey to get away with. But, again, the preseason game the other night, Cade's starting to get these calls that he wasn't getting last year, just like when he's driving to the hoop. And it's exciting to see, because now if Cade can do that, then he can, average more than 20 points for the entire season. But it's a team that's not going to be good on defense. And I think there's going to be a lot of nights where they're not very good on offense either, which is why I think, if they're going to have one of the 6 worst records in the NBA, they're not going to be the worst team in the NBA, and I don't think they're going to have a bottom 3 record, but they're going to be pretty bad compared to the rest of the league. I think it'll still be pretty fun to watch, but again, I wouldn't expect a lot of wins. And if you're looking at the reasons why, I think defense has to be, chief among those.
Yeah, I think we've given quite a few reasons why in this segment of why you should temper your expectations for the Detroit Pistons this season. So the Central Division, we both know it's been the Milwaukee Bucks division to run for the last 4+ years now. I don't know about you. I'm expecting them to win the division again. I'm assuming you're on the same page with me there.
Yeah, the Bucks are maybe the best team in the East, and certainly.
Okay, and so then after that, it's, can the Chicago Bulls stay healthy enough to be second in the division, or do the Cavs leapfrog them with Spida Mitchell joining a new team and leading the way offensively. And he says defensively, he said he's going to focus on being a better defender this year. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition or not. But so who you got second, the Bulls or the Cavs?
The Cavs. I mean, the Bulls already can't stay healthy. Lonzo Ball might be out the entire season. But, yeah, I mean, I think the Cavs are going to be pretty good, pretty solid. Obviously, Garland, Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, obviously, big addition. But even getting Jared Allen back, and last year when they had Jared Allen, they were like really good defensively, and then they lost him. And then they were not only bad defensively, they were bad just kind of as a team after Jared Allen went down. But I think they'll be better than what the Bulls are.
Yeah, I think the Bulls are a better team when healthy, but like you said, they can't stay healthy. And if the Cavs can, I think they leapfrog the Bulls. I think it'll be close. I think they'll be within 2.5, 3 games of each other, whatever. But I think the Cavs are going to get just a little bit better than the Bulls this year and be second in the Central. And then fourth, I got us quite a few games back from the Bulls, and then the Pacers about 6, 7, 8 games back of us for the last spot in the division.
I mean, I don't think we'll be 8 games better than the Pacers, but I think
if they're trying to tank and we're not, then we might.
All right, but still, like, man, if we win 30 games, they have to win only 22, and
that's what I'm saying. They tank
for us. I know, but I think our over/under is like 26.
Well,
27, and they only win 19. That's one of the worst teams ever.
So. Speaking of that, again, we're talking about a young team, like we said, 7 guys on this team that are third year in the NBA or less. So there could be some flashes of greatness and brilliance, and there's going to be flashes of what are you doing. So for me, the floor that I have for the Pistons this year is 27 wins. I think 27 wins is our floor, and I got 34 wins as our ceiling.
I mean, I think the floor is probably closer to 23 or 24 wins. The ceiling, I mean, if everything goes right, I don't know, 38.
Close to 500? That'd be amazing.
The East is still great, but if I don't know if Cade is like all NBA, and Ivy is, rookie of the year, then maybe they can sniff 38. But I just don't see a situation where they get to like 40 or something.
All right, who you got as most improved Piston?
Most improved Piston. I mean, it's probably a cop-out answer, but Cade Cunningham. he's going to be the one who has to improve the most if the Pistons are serious about winning. And it doesn't matter what any of the other guys do, Livers or Sadiq or Killian Hayes or whoever. But it's going to have to be Cade because it all falls on his shoulders. And I think he's got the most talent. I do think he will be a borderline All-Star this year. So I'll pick Cade Cunningham.
So I didn't go with Cade because he was already averaging about 20-plus points, especially for the second half of the season, and I'm expecting him to be around that 23, 24-point mark per game this year. So I did not go with Cade. I have it between either Beef Stew, if that three-point shot really is starting to fall for him, his numbers should jump up a ton, and Sadiq Bey. He was already showing glimpses of it last year. If he has more open opportunities and knocks down those opportunities, I think he could be actually in the running for most improved in the NBA, period. So I got up between those two. For me, sixth man, it depends on how we play and who's hurt and who's not, but it's either Killian or Isaiah Livers, depending on how they run the offense. But I think we've seen glimpses of what Killian is starting to bring to the table. I do think this is a year that people are going to be going, that's why we took this guy. And I'm hoping we see that out of Killian. So I got him or Isaiah Livers as our sixth man of the year.
I got Alec Burks. I think he's just going to come off the bench and be a strong veteran presence for the Pistons. He's probably going to be the guy who, when somebody gets hurt, he can kind of run point guard too. He did that a little bit in when he was with the Knicks, I believe. And, I think he's just going to be a guy who they trust and who they, kind of spot start when some of these guys end up getting hurt, when some of these other guards get hurt.
And I think we both have the same player for MVP of this team. You already said him as your most improved. I think we both agree this man, he's got to be the man running the show for us for many years to come. Cade Cunningham, MVP for the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt.
All right.
He's so good.
So good. And I'm hoping we see more of it this year. All right. let's get off of the hardwood, jump on to the football field. We got one really big college game coming up, and Michigan State and Wisconsin used to be a great one. I don't know what we're getting this year. But this football segment is brought to you by GearUpDetroit.shop. Y'all want to find the coolest and hippest gear to rock and roll with your with your teams, whether it's the Pistons or the Tigers or the Lions or the Red Wings. GearUpDetroit.shop is the way to go, and you want to get 25% off of that. You can use our promo code. That'd be G&B25 off. We'll get you 25% off your order. That is GearUpDetroit.shop. All right, Ryan. Let's start with the real game. Number 5, Michigan host, and number 10, Penn State. The Wolverines are depending on where you look, I'm seeing 7 or 7.5 point favorite. 52 is the over-under. It is big noon on Fox. Can Penn State do to Michigan what they've been doing so far in their lackluster competition, taking on a Wolverines team that is going to be testing that Nittany Lions defense?
I think it'll be a good game. It's probably the first game that we've had to be excited about for Michigan. It'd be tough, right? You finally get to see their vaunted offense against the defense. That'll be pretty good. And then you get to see Penn State's all-universe running back go up against the defense. That is pretty good. So I'm really excited for it. With Michigan, it's J.J. McCarthy's first big test to go against Penn State. It is at home, and typically James Franklin Penn State teams, when they go to the big house, they just get murdered. It's never close. They're always losing by 30 or 40. But it's, again, not to say that that's what's going to happen this year. But for Michigan, I think you just have to kind of play within yourself. And I think what's going to kill you is if you do start off slow again, like you did against Indiana. Again, 10-10 at half. I know they pulled away. So if you're looking at the end score, Michigan won by 3 touchdowns, I think, 31-10. But you can't play with a team like Penn State like that. It's the same thing with Maryland. You can't do that. You can't be settling for field goals. You can't have your field goals blocked. JJ can't miss these guys deep. So it's going to be the key is really just going to be for Michigan to not make any mistakes. And mistakes aren't just in the form of turnovers. Mistakes can be, again, a missed third down play, a missed tackle, which Michigan certainly has had the propensity to do this year, especially against this running back. You piece of garbage. Especially against this running back, man. And that's where I think the key of the game is going to be for Michigan is their kind of how are their linebackers going to fare and how is their defensive line going to fare against the Penn State offensive line, because if Penn State is able to, if the running back is able to get to his name, Singletary, I think.
Yeah. It's Singletary.
So if he's able to get to the second level of Michigan,
or Singleton.
Defense,
Singleton.
There we go. Sorry, the Buffalo Bills on my mind.
Yeah, wrong one. But Nick Singleton is their running back.
If Singleton's able to get to the second level of this Michigan defense, then I think Michigan's going to have a really hard time winning this game. They're going to have to do a really good job of the 4 guys up front containing the run game and not letting him kind of get past that initial line of scrimmage, because if he gets one-on-one with Michigan's linebackers or safeties or corners, then I think it's trouble in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because, Michigan has at least faced some tests defensively. Iowa, a very good defense that Michigan really didn't have too many problems with, was able to move the ball pretty much at will, scored on 4 of their first 5 drives. And when you have a tailback like Blake Corum, who's second nationally with 11 rushing touchdowns, he's third among all backs with 735 total yards. It really helps Michigan do what they want to do, which is control the ball and the clock and really just wear down the opponent. Penn State, they have a good rushing defense so far this year. They're ranked number 5 nationally. It's about a little under 80 yards per game that they allow on the ground. But so did Iowa before Michigan came in, and Michigan just ran all over them. So I'm curious to see, because Penn State really hasn't faced an offense that can move the ball on the ground the way Michigan can. Yes, they went into Auburn, and in the second half, they were very impressive at Auburn, but Auburn wasn't moving the ball the way that Michigan is. Penn State really hasn't faced that many great offenses. The best offense that Penn State has faced is Ohio. And yeah, they dismantled Ohio in week 2 of the season, but Ohio is 28th in offense this year at just a little over 6.5 yards per play. The best offense that Michigan's faced, Maryland, they're 11th in the country at just over 7 yards per play. Meanwhile, defensively, Michigan is 4th in the country, allowing 3.87 yards per play. They beat Iowa, who was 3rd, allowing 3.83. Penn State 20th at 4.73. Just to show you these numbers, because Penn State, they haven't faced an offense like Michigan yet, and Michigan kind of has faced a good offense in Maryland, and Maryland gave them some battles. It really was, but Michigan still was able to weather the storm and come out with a victory. Penn State really hasn't done that yet against a team that can really match them the way that Michigan can. So it's going to be interesting to see. I agree with you that Michigan's front has to be the group that stops the running game, that stops Singleton. And we talked about it in the chat, and Paul was all over it as well, that he doesn't believe that the defensive backs can really handle the running game of the Nittany Lions. So it's up to the line to do the job for Michigan. I think they're up to the task, and I think they're going to be dangerous against this Penn State rushing attack. And I do think Michigan is going to be able to slow down Penn State enough and be composed enough offensively that they'll be able to get this win. I don't know about the spread. I don't know if they're covering that touchdown, but I do think that they are capable and built the right way to beat these Nittany Lions.
So, I mean, Penn State, they did also play Purdue, which, I mean, it's Purdue's got a pretty good offense. Obviously not as good as Michigan's, but Purdue put up just as many points as Michigan did on Maryland, just about. Purdue put up 31, Michigan put up 34. So it's not like Purdue is starving for playmakers or something. So Penn State did see that a little bit in week 1. They also faced Auburn, who, Auburn's certainly not great, but it is a Power 5 team that Penn State, went in there and beat Auburn at home.
Yeah, that second half was very impressive.
Again, those teams aren't as good as Michigan, but it's not like Penn State has just been out here beating up on the schedule that Michigan's been beating up on. Honestly, when you look at some of the teams that they faced, and I just don't think Iowa is any good. I think the defense is pretty good, but I think Iowa as a whole team is pretty bad. So I think I would take Penn State's strength of schedule now more so than I would than Michigan's. But I mean, to that point too, right? Penn State has played some of those games close. They only beat Purdue by 4. It was on the road that they went in there and did that, but beat them by 4, beat Northwestern by 10 in a game where Penn State's offense didn't look impressive. It was right before a bye week. Maybe they were looking ahead to the Michigan game, but only 17-7 in that game against Northwestern. So I think both these teams are pretty hard to read, and for Michigan, I think having the game at home is such a huge boost for them. I don't know who I'm picking to win. I do think Penn State. I think they'd be my pick now. I like some of the playmakers that they have on defense too. Joey Porter Jr. is amazing. He plays a different position than his dad did, but he looks just as good in college, as his dad did in the NFL. He's a fantastic player. And I know Sean Clifford gets a lot of hate, the Penn State quarterback. I don't think he's great, but I think he's good enough, and he's been there, 9-10 years at this point. And even if he's not great, usually when you get a quarterback like that in college who's just been there, who knows the system, who's been with the same coach the whole time, the offense runs pretty effectively, even if this guy doesn't have the arm talent that J.J. McCarthy does. It's not like Clifford's going to go in there and just make a ton of mistakes either. And Clifford's got some ability to him himself. So I think it's an interesting game. It should be a really good matchup. I think the 7.5 is too big of a spread, and I do think Penn State is actually going to win the game. But no matter who wins, I don't think it comes down to like anything that's not the last possession. I think it'll be a really kind of big back and forth type game, because what we've seen from both defenses is they have, some vulnerabilities. Like, again, I know Indiana only scored 10 points against Michigan, but they were getting busy on some of those wide receiver screens, but they just don't have the talent that is needed. And even some of the other games that Michigan was having, if you looked at the end game, are they giving up 5 yards a rush? No, but it seemed like there were times where other teams were able to get drives going, and they might have had 30 rushing yards on the drive, and it ended in a punt or a missed field goal or something. But I don't know. I think both these defenses are just a little bit more vulnerable than what we're giving them credit for, and I think each offense will be able to take advantage of it. So I don't know what the over is, but I'd probably take the over.
So the over is 52.
Yeah, I'd take the over.
So with the spread being a touchdown, I think it's going to be closer than that. I think Penn State is going to be in this game until the very end. I see a 3-4 point victory for Michigan personally. So I do have Michigan with the money line, but I got Penn State covering the spread. I don't know about, the over-run, to me, it's close. I think it's going to be right around this number as far as a spread. 28-24, something like that. That's 52 right on the dot. It's just something I see with these two teams, because I understand what you're saying, but Penn State hasn't faced a rushing attack like Michigan. They just haven't. Purdue goes through the air. Ohio goes through the air. Auburn, while they have good backs, that offense just isn't working. It just hasn't worked outside of that first half against Penn State. They haven't done anything outside of that. And that second half, Penn State just came back and rolled all over them. So I just think Michigan's ability to ground the football and just run them down their throats, I think that's what's going to be the difference maker against this Penn State defense that hasn't been tested this way, the way that Michigan's going to bring it to the table. It's going to be a good game. And I agree with you. It can go any which way. That's why I got Penn State covering the touchdown spread. I just think Michigan's a little bit better, and when it counts, it's going to be Michigan holding up their hands at the end of the game.
But like, is Michigan that the best recipe for their success though? Because even you look at last week against Indiana, when they were running they got into a little bit of trouble in the first half, and the second half when they opened up the offense, obviously they never completely abandoned the run, but they opened up the offense, and that's when they're able to pour it on Indiana and and really run away with that game. So I don't even know that it's in Michigan's best interest to just ground and pound the game entirely. But I would say I was looking at like a 33-30 type game. So if the spread is 54 or 52, I would take the over pretty comfortably, because I think even 28-27, that gets you there. But I think one of these teams is definitely going to pass 30. And I don't expect the other one, again, and I think it's going to be within a touchdown, certainly, but within that 3 to 4 point range that you do. So the over would be the play for me.
There you go, Ryan with the over, and you're also picking Penn State to cover the 7 touch.
Penn State definitely to cover. Like I said, I think they're going to win, but I feel more comfortable, obviously, about them covering than them winning.
So we're both picking Penn State to cover the touchdown spread. Ryan's got Penn State winning. I've got Michigan winning. Ryan's comfortable with the over. I'm not. Means nothing. Take it for whatever it is. We're just giving you what we think on this game. I think it's going to be a good one, though. This one should be one of the better ones this week, and I think Michigan looked past Indiana a little bit. All right, let's get to our the Michigan State Spartans. The Wisconsin Badgers used to be
episode of Griffin and Bass. Thank you all for joining us.
Well, we'll be very quick with this on what used to be a fantastic rivalry of football and basketball. Some phenomenal finishes to some great games, as well as some heartbreaking ones, depending on which side of the coin toss you are on. But this year's Spartans and this year's Badgers, not the Spartans and Badgers of the mid 2000s that came to battle. Defenses are both 2010s, whatever. Teams they came to battle with defense and offense. Michigan State has neither right now, and Wisconsin looks like they may have gotten a little something under their new head coach since letting go of Paul Chryst. But this it's again. they showed it this past week where they just dismantled Northwestern with a bunch of touchdowns through the air. That's all I needed to see. The Wisconsin's going to win this football game. They were able to do that through the air. They certainly going to do that through the air against Michigan State. So I got Wisconsin covering, winning, whatever. I can't give you much because I haven't seen anything. Michigan State looks so broken in all facets of the game. We're not getting any pressure on the quarterback. Our secondary's not doing anything. We can't rush for more than 50 yards. All of a sudden, we can't run the ball. And unless Thorne has a clean pocket for a long time to throw the ball, the passing game's not working either. So I don't know how Michigan State wins this football game against Wisconsin.
So a revenge game for Jalen Berger. That's how.
That's how.
That's
it.
Yep. This is it. Take it to the bank. Yeah, I mean, both these teams are really bad, and I mean, you know this because I told you, but they don't. There was a time where Wisconsin was right up there with Michigan in terms of teams that I hated when we were going back and forth with them in basketball and football. And it was like, man, we just can't shake these guys. You know, they had Bo Ryan. They had, Brett Bielema. I hated them. My second most hated Big Ten team by far. It's dissipated a little bit, but still not all that much because I still don't like Wisconsin. Still can't stand them. I think they got Greg Gard as their basketball coach. Don't like him either. A little more tolerable than old Bo, but don't like them. Don't like the Badgers. Stupid. Maybe it's because they're, I don't know, close to Wolverine in Animal, or at least they look the same. They're both ugly and stupid. As far as this game goes, though, I mean, I don't want to pick Wisconsin. I feel like you probably have to. Graham Mertz sucks, but I thought the same thing about Tanner Morgan, and he completed damn near 100% of his passes against Michigan State, 23-26 or whatever he was, and it's tough. Peyton Thorne came out and he's like, "Yeah, I've been dealing with the injury since I think it was since the Western Michigan game, which is the first game." So, I don't know. I don't feel good about this game at all. The 7 seems like a big spread to me. It's 7.5 because Wisconsin's not good either, and the game is in East Lansing. So from that aspect, I'd probably pick Michigan State to cover. But I mean, yeah, you just look. Michigan State's allowing 445 yards a game, and you just can't do that even against the bad teams because then they're just gonna, dice you up, right? Wisconsin's averaging 31 points a game. Michigan State at 26. The difference is Wisconsin's only allowing to average 20 points, and Michigan State is allowing 27. And about 107 yards rushing for Michigan State and 170 yards rushing for Wisconsin. So what I would like to say is that Michigan State's run defense will be able to contain Braylon Allen, but I don't believe that because we've seen some other teams have success running the ball against Michigan State. Not as much success as they've had passing the ball against Michigan State, but Braylon Allen is, I don't know, man, maybe the second or third best running back in the Big Ten, right? I mean, there's a lot of good ones. You got Singleton, you got Henderson, you got Blake Corum. But last year, Braylon Allen was the guy, besides Kenneth Walker. But, Braylon Allen was the guy, and even this year, he's still averaging, 6 yards a carry. It's hard to stop. He's a really good running back, and I don't see just the way that Michigan State is going to be able to stop this Wisconsin team. And it's a Wisconsin team that's not very good, and I just think their defense is better than what ours is, and they're going to be able to stop us more than we're going to be able to stop them. So I am regretfully picking Wisconsin to win this game.
Yeah, unless the Spartans look like the Spartans of the first 2 weeks of the season, I just don't see how it's possible for Michigan State to get any pressure and stop Graham Mertz, who is not a good quarterback, but against bad defenses, he looks pretty good. Look what he did to Northwestern. I mean, 6 touchdown passes. But this defense is not good either, Wisconsin. They allowed 30-plus points to Illinois State, obviously Ohio State and Illinois as well. So they have had their problems defensively that Michigan State could be able to attack through the air with Peyton Thorne throwing to Reed, Mosley, Coleman, Barker, Berger, whatever. But he needs time. The offensive line needs to do its job to create time for Peyton Thorne to be able to even get the quick hits out. He needs some time, and that's all on the trenches doing it for us. The trenches haven't done it yet. Until they start showing us they can, I I can't confidently pick them to do anything but lose. And at 7.5 points, is Wisconsin worthy of a 7.5 point road spread? Absolutely not. That's how bad Michigan State's been playing lately, that they're getting an over touchdown spread at East Lansing. It's just not good. And I don't want to touch this game at all with a 10-foot pole. I'm going to pick Wisconsin to cover. I hope I'm wrong. The over-under 49. Look, both these defenses are bad. Maybe Michigan State gets some things going offensively, and they contribute as part of it as well. Go with the over. I don't really know on this one. But I think Wisconsin's going to win this football game unless Michigan State turns things around dramatically in all facets of the game, especially on the line, offensively and defensively. If they can get pressure defensively, if they can hold off pressure offensively, Michigan State will be in this football game. I haven't seen it since they shut out Toledo 52-0. I just haven't seen it. And so until I do again, I cannot pick them with any kind of confidence as sports journalist. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. I got to pick the Badgers. I hate it. I hate Wisconsin as much as you do. I've enjoyed beating. Nothing made me happier than watching in 2000 when we beat Wisconsin basketball 4 times, including in the Final Four on the way to the national championship. Nothing made that better than beating Wisconsin a 4th time in that Final Four. The great football games that we've won in the past against them, it's just, I hate them as well. But we are so bad right now. Michigan State is so bad right now. I can't pick them. I just can't.
Yeah, no, I can't pick them either. And it's sad to say because Wisconsin sucks.
Yep.
You know, when they get to playing Rutgers or something, maybe I'll start to pick them. But as of now, you can't.
Nope.
Michigan State should just rest their starters and then, prepare 3 weeks for Michigan.
Yep. Throw Noah Kim out there in this game. Let him go. Let Noah Kim go and see what happens, and let Thorne get healthy.
I mean, I wasn't here last Monday, but yeah, or last Tuesday. This Tuesday I was, but the Tuesday before. Yeah, no, I'm all aboard the Noah Kim train. I've seen enough of Peyton Thorne.
I don't even know if I've seen enough of Peyton Thorne. Just let him get healthy. Throw Kim out there. Let him deal with Wisconsin's defense. Let Thorne try and get healthy and back on track. Maybe we can use him against Michigan and pull off a ridiculous upset that we have no business being in the first place. But we've done it before, so who knows? All right, that's going to do it. Thank you again for kicking it with Griffin and Bass. For Ryan Griffin, I'm Matt Bassin. And for Ryan Griffin's cat, as always, Wu-Tang is for the children. There it goes again.
Lights out.
We'll see y'all after the weekend. Ryan, go green.
Room next week. Go what?
We'll see y'all. Peace.
Hey, Ryan Griffin here. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Griffin and Bass. Be sure to give us your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to click the bell to receive the latest notifications from DSN and subscribe for breaking news, community blogs, polls, contests, and other content.